Our last speaker is John Kramer.
Good evening, board members and audience. And I told Barbara tonight she had a short haircut. I'm sort of at a loss as to what would be important to the board to hear at this point. I want to make a few points. They are based upon Americanism and patriotism. The class has been running at Cedar Lane for the past year or more. Had nothing to do with Hanban, had nothing to do with Confucius Classrooms. It was a teaching of Chinese. Wilson High School, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, started Chinese in 1991. Los Altos followed somewhere 10 years later at the high school. The teaching of Chinese language has never been the issue before this body, and yet many of the arguments were we should teach Chinese. That's not the problem.
But more importantly, why are we teaching about a foreign culture when we are devoid of teaching the American culture? Our children are not learning the foundation and the tenets of this country, but we put emphasis on a communist country. It's wrong.
The teaching of Chinese language has never been the issue before this body, and yet many of the arguments were we should teach Chinese. That's not the problem. The problem is one that the board itself has initiated and it refuses to acknowledge, and that is that the influence of a foreign government on instructional material, on instruction in our classrooms should be something that this board would lead in making sure it doesn't happen. The influence of a foreign government on instructional material, on instruction in our classrooms should be something that this board would lead in making sure it doesn't happen. The people that are here tonight that oppose the Confucius Institute run by Hanban, those are both just terms. Now, the teacher mentioned about Confucius. The Chinese government of People's Republic of China outlawed anything to do with Confucianism because they did away with all the heritage. They had a new thinking among the communist government. They have adopted it by their own admission in communist documents. The overseas Chinese would respect Confucius, so they use a term. There's nothing about Confucius Institute that has to do with the religion aspect. Hanban is a communist-run, communist-funded organization attempting throughout the world to reach kids. We should be spending our time. The board should be leading in teaching our kids patriotism, Americanism. Teach about learning about other countries, teaching Chinese culture, that's fine. That's probably more appropriate at the high school level, taught by Americans. Not from Tiananmen Square forward, which is what this program does. But the whole history of China. What about the revolution? The millions of people that were killed by Mao. Stalin, Hitler, he's in that same crowd. That is not acceptable in this country. Don't influence our kids. If the board would merely rescind the action, take another foreign government out of here, we'd all be okay.
We're taking a 10-minute break.